another journey. And today's journey is a long-term devotee of the healing arts with over 2 decades of experience teaching the power of mindfulness, yoga, and self-awareness, plus much more, which we'll go into when we discuss it. She helps caregivers and parents heal from burnout and reduce their stress and anxiety in fast, simple ways. Through energy interpretation, our guest helps people identify their energy blind spots and come into instant self-awareness so they can be freed up to live a healthier life. Canadian author and medical fitness specialist and intuitive copywriter, we welcome Cera to the journey.
Thank you so much, David. I'm so happy to be here.
You're welcome. Everyone has a journey. It can be spiritual, it can be mindful, it could be wellness, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, for men, it could be adapted to men's needs as well as women. And this way, we're going to keep on a balance of both, but you can refer to females and men. It depends how you want to go about it. But the earliest memories I want you to start with is your earliest memories that kickstarted your journey.
Wow. Well, if I go really early, I would place myself at 3 or 4, standing in a room with my family, and I remember hearing somebody share a truth, share a story. And I remember this like categorical inner knowing that that's not the real truth. The real truth is different. I know this kind of spiritual truth, but I didn't even have that word, right? I didn't
Mm,
even have the word for spiritual at the time. So it's funny you asked that because that's really young. My whole life I had a sense of like there's something more, there's something people aren't talking about. Something's not adding up. And I was very, very drawn to wellness, to health. At first, as a teenager, it was a little bit like, oh, you want to look nice, you want to be slender, like all the typical teenage girl things. But like even more, like I was drawn to the esoteric, I was drawn to the new age, I was really drawn to physics, and this idea that everything is in vibration, that everything is made up of energy, and it was just like, wow, that's amazing. And then that gradually led me to teachers who took me under their wing. For years at a time and let me study with them and let me learn some of the ancient arts around like breathwork therapy, meditation, mindfulness, yogic philosophy, and then gradually more of the energy healing like Reiki and other intuitive development practices. And then one kickoff many years ago was I decided, well, I want to let's make this formalize this. So I was already doing a lot of energy work or supporting people with healing energy blocks. So I signed up for training, level 1, 2, and 3, and with a Reiki master who's very popular in my town. And so they attune you with certain symbols, these Tibetan symbols. And when she went to, like, I was ready to graduate and she's ready to do this kind of this process, she's like, oh, they're already above your head. Like, you already have them. So at the time I still had a lot to learn. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, it's like you already know this. You're already attuned. You're already like you're already like a professor of this. You're already doing this work. So there was just kind of these little glimmers that I thought funny along the way. And then gradually I stepped more and more into my own, I guess, power and trusting of my own inner voice, my own intuition.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
and it's just I know from my own personal experiences on that is if you don't listen to the inner you, you tend to always end up going into various blocks, but various stopping points, and it's never
Yeah.
easy to get back out of unless you know how to, and you've got to know how to because that's what will make you go further.
Yes. It's the know-how.
Yeah, it's like a classic example, and I like using this example because it's often been drilled into me when I was younger, and I'm 41 now, so I'm still young, but it's a thing I remember. At the age of 15, I was I was having behavior issues at school, and the teacher always told me, you do things wrong, you're on a flight of steps. Every time you do something wrong, you're cutting your way up those steps. The more you do wrong, it's harder to go up those steps to get to where you want to get to. which kick-started me from the age of 15 onwards, really. I know I had my ups and downs after that, but that helped me get onto those steps to where I am now.
Okay. So it was a
Because,
positive thing.
yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing was, before that, I was always cutting up those steps. I was making it difficult to climb those
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah. That's right. That makes sense. And you're kind of talking about, I think, some of those pivotal moments that sort of
Mm,
spur us onward. And you're right. If we don't listen to the inner voice, learn how to connect with it, you're going to get almost like shoved forward in some kind of way.
mm,
And some of them suck. So it's better to listen ongoing if you can. But even for me, I've been doing this work for a long time, but I have a very, very logical side. So I have like over decades in the corporate world, and I'm an analyst and a geographer. Um, and so I still get stuck in the very rational, logical, and times of giving my power away or listening to other people's opinions. When they're, say, more educated or even just more dominant in the personality than me. And in those times, each time I've gotten this massive, massive kick in the butt wake up call where I'm forced to listen to my inner voice, but it happened in like almost a really harsh way
mm.
when I could have just listened way earlier, right?
Yeah.
Way earlier, yeah.
It's like I should have listened to myself more when I was younger, but because I was that, like I
Mm.
said, I was that age.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
And
was that,
which,
and I was that age where I was still, even though I was 15, I was still immature. I was still that, if I would like
yeah,
you, I like using this word nowadays, brat.
yeah, yeah. And which parts of ourselves do we listen to? Because we all have the ego. We all have the wounded child. We all have the insecurities. We all have the rage. We all have this beautiful inner knowing and this connection to our highest self, or highest version of ourselves, right? We all have connection to our rational, logical self, right? So
Mm,
um my work is to help myself and others really bring down the storm,
yeah.
especially emotional ones, and not only come into mindfulness, like sort of neutral brainwaves, but really, and then really into the heart center, where, in my experience, you're going to find the closest version of your truth.
Mm,
It usually makes people cry too when they access it. So
mm,
if you're new to it, so that's how you know you're stumbling on the actual truth for
yeah.
you, you know?
Yeah, and that's often the thing that I still struggle with now is finding that emotion.
Yeah. We're very, well, especially men, but we're very trained not to, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
And not only because there's, there's still some of this going on. I think it's less with the younger generations, but it's not masculine. It's wimpy. It's sissy. It's not rewarded in the corporate world. But also, we've been trained to not give it like relevance or credibility.
Mm,
And for sure, I think like we don't want to be like flying off the handle, like so emotional that our emotions are just dragging us everywhere, right? Like we want to be calm and cool and collected, but the more that we ignore or can't access our emotions, the harder it's going to be to find our real truth, you know?
yeah, and that
And
is
like,
the thing
yeah.
about finding that inner truth.
Hmm.
So obviously you grew up with these understandings, these feelings. Did you
Hmm.
find it initially once you had the understanding, did you find it still difficult to adapt because it was so new to you, or
Mm.
because it was so ingrained to you, it was easier to
Uh,
cope?
well, here's the thing, like my mm, intuitive side has always been there, and that was not easy hard to adapt to because I mean I'm the fourth and five children for starters, and I'm already really good at kind of blending in and not rocking the boat and all the things. So my issue was I just didn't show it. So really where the struggle was more later, like now, like since I've had children, because now I'm stepping into that side of me. And, like when you're working in an environment that's only logical, oh, that's the only thing that's accepted, science all the way, blah, blah, blah. And then, you're bringing in these views that are saying, yeah, I don't know if that's like the truth in your heart. Like people think you're like absolutely like
Yeah.
bananas or just not credible, right? So,
Mm,
um, So yeah, so I found that yes, it's a struggle, but I found it was much later in life because the other little kind of spiritual side of me, I know I tucked it into a corner or I carried around in a backpack. And yes, if I went to a yoga class or if I was hanging around with people who were open, I'd bring her out,
Mm,
right? But I didn't bring her out in the day to day. I
yeah.
didn't bring her out like in conversations on social media or at school or my children's school or in university or anything like that, right?
So you chose
Yeah,
to just keep that because it's
I
like,
kept
yeah.
I kept
A-
that side private. Yeah.
And that is a good thing because you don't want people to often, and I'll say this in the nicest way, how I understand it, you don't want to be people taking advantage of you.
That's a good point. Yeah, that is part of it. And I think there's also for me like a natural fear of judgment, a fear of criticism, and one of the biggest human needs is belonging and connection. So I think there, especially like in high school, like there's a really real fear of being excluded. And there's a lot of stress that comes with that fear, right? So
Mm,
I think that there's other reasons too why we join the pack and we act, we act like we're the same as everybody else, right?
yeah. And
We
then
don't
off
show
it,
our difference. Yeah, we
and
don't show our differences.
and then obviously, like I said about life events come in such a way that sometimes you don't always want to happen. Like,
Absolutely.
it's like I know I'm trying to not reference too much to me because it's not about me, but
It's okay.
thing, things happen, and things happened to me at a young age when I was 18, and it changed my outlook on a lot of things. And for so long, and including now, I still have those random flashbacks because I think, why did things happen like that? I always question why, but it's not about the why. And
Have you
and yes, I have spoken about it. I spoke about it more openly in recent years because it's my way of helping other people to know you're not alone, you're not struggling. It happens, yes, but you can talk about it.
so would it be fair to say that at least a big part of the reason whatever it is happened was so that it empowers you to be a more soulful, stronger, empathic leader in your role?
Yeah,
Because you would never be who you are
mm,
without that experience,
yeah.
right?
And like I said, it happened. It left that mark in my mind, and it's like I said, it's still there. I'm not proud what happened, and I wish I can turn back time and not have that what happened to me. But like you said, it's made me who I am now. It's made me empathetic to the fact that I can relate more. I can out people who I can say, "It's happened to you. It's happened to me."
Yeah. See how people feel seen.
Yeah. And that's what the journey's about, and that's what I want to show people. Everyone has a journey in life.
Yeah. Have you found any modalities that have reduced the charge around it so that the memory's there and you're able to talk about the charge is much less?
Um, there is happy mediums where I can relate to who I can talk to now, yes.
Yeah.
And that person I'm grateful for, and you know, I know she's been through a lot herself. So it's a relatability where she can talk to me about what's happened with her. I can talk what's happened with me to her.
Yeah.
So it's a switch.
Yeah.
Her way of coping is talking about it. Her way is writing, and I'm proud that she's now writing. She's actually published books herself,
Oh, nice.
poetry books, but
This is
in
this is a this is a friend of yours.
partner.
Okay, partner, sorry. Nice.
And she writes these in poetry form because that's how it is, and she writes it in such a way that it's referring to
Yeah.
she's talking about.
Yeah.
But she keeps it into this way of talking to make people understand you're not alone.
That's beautiful.
And like I said, she's got over 10 books published and they're available now. So
That's beautiful. Wow.
ebooks, and I think she's got one, yeah, I've got over 10 ebooks and one audio books.
That's beautiful. Um, Well, I think ultimately that's what it's about is helping people know that they're not alone and that they're seen and witnessed. And I think just that, like just the witnessing is tremendously healing. It's
Mm,
that's what I help. That's what I help with, and that's what I enjoy, and that's what I help people feel is witnessed and seen, and that all parts of them are normal, acceptable, loved,
yeah,
healthy, right? And it's very freeing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I acknowledge with her as well. You know, she's acknowledged my past trauma, and I've acknowledged her past trauma. And
Hmm.
yes, people have, and I've even heard this, and it's not no against people saying it, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's the way it's implied. But people say it's trauma bonding, but it's not trauma bonding. It's a way of us understanding each other to be together.
Well, no, yeah.
Now if it was trauma bonding, that's how confusing it gets. I would understand, and it'd be more difficult.
Yeah, I don't think it's trauma bonding because of the way you're talking, the level of consciousness you're bringing to it.
Mm,
It's different things. Two people choosing each other from a peaceful, loving space that happen to have similar traumas. Trauma bonding to me is when it's like very unconscious. You're like in fight or flight and you're like, okay, that person because that person's familiar and that's not what you were describing to me
mm,
before you pushed record. So
exactly.
I don't think that's what it is.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
So going into the present, and we touch upon what you've
Yeah.
done, and we was talking about various things about women empowerment and about
Yes.
how. Tell us about that.
Women empowerment. Well, I think the single most defining moment for me, maybe it was a series of moments, was giving birth to my first child. It was a nice big baby, and at home in my room, um, totally exhausted, and I'd never fully overcame it. I learned to dance with it. I had really significant levels of fear, anxiety, fear of birth, fear of trauma, fear of disfiguring my body, fear of stitches, fear, just like you name it, right? Because there was a lot of family history of birth and pregnancy related trauma to the point that my grandmother's firstborn actually was born full term, beautiful, healthy boy, and then died. So I guess that was one of the biggest empowering moments was getting through that and of course we had our share of drama. First of all, I was pretty pissed off at the universe at the traumatic levels of pain that I wound up going
Mm,
through despite my very careful preparation, and I outlined this in my book that I wrote. And I also, my midwife didn't take me seriously that I would be going through labor so quickly. So she told me to take a Tylenol and get in the hot tub. And I couldn't even move. So she didn't get there on time. She got there like quite literally the last like 20 seconds. So then I had a husband panicking because he's like, I don't know how to deliver it. Like, what the hell? I can't do this alone. And then I was trying to reassure him, even though I could barely function. At this point, like, I'm so much pain. I'm just like literally like practically delirious, right? But also, you in between the surges or the contractions, there's so much hormones going through your body to relax you that you're literally falling asleep. So I'm trying to reassure him that I don't care, everything's gonna be fine. So, so yeah, so all of this going on, and then the second that she was out, um, I had this, this beautiful baby in my hands, and like the pain was completely gone. And I took a big breath, and I was just like, oh, fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like a
mm,
really like I just climbed Mount Everest kind of feeling. And I remember picking her up, and yeah, that's when a sense of empowerment kicks in. And they were like, oh, they want the placenta to come out and this and this and this. And they're all talking to me and I'm focusing on the baby. And they want you to use the washroom right away just to make sure everything's functioning. And I'm like, I don't want to. I'm very comfortable. Let me sit here and catch my breath. I just went through like 5 hours of like total hell. And uh And in the yoga tradition, you keep the baby very, very closely connected to the mother, at least for like a few days or several hours. So they're going back and forth. They're like, we need to make sure that you can use the washroom, that you can go pee, to make sure da 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 da. So I'm like, fine. So I stood up and carried her with me. Off I went, and I said, and they were like, is it safe? And I'm like, they're like, this is very unconventional. I'm like, I don't care. So, but I just was like being my natural self. I didn't think, I felt very empowered to do that. And, I felt very strong, even though it was like 4 in the morning and I hadn't slept in like, oh, God knows how long at that point. Because my water broke at least 12 hours earlier, like at 3 in the afternoon. So there was kind of the stress of that as well, and it puts a bit more pressure on things. And then I just even remember the dog barking when the baby came out because he thought somebody new was at the house, and then like we're trying to hush up the dog. It's just like a big like it was a funny and magically beautiful moment. But I think then I was like, wow, like I'm responsible for this person, and I literally just walked through trauma and straight out the other side in a very physical way, right? But holding on to my truth at the same time. And though I was in so much pain, I really did remember to surrender, just surrender, just surrender, the levels of like just letting go and not fighting. I can't even explain. So I know I'm going on
I
about this
can
because I'm very
I
passionate
get
about this book.
I can get it, and that's good
Yeah.
that you're passionate about it because
Yeah.
it's showing that you are being the true self to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where it started. And then by the time I did that, I had three births, as you said, sovereign or unmedicated or whatever at
Mm.
home. And I had midwives present for them, the other ones, like they were unassisted, but um the midwives were there just in case. And the third time, my midwife was like, she was kind of annoying me at points because she kept making noise and unzipping bags and putting up IVs in my house. And I was like, you got to stop. Like, I'm in a meditation here. So she goes, I don't know what you're doing, Sarah, but you got to share this with other women. And I was like, literally holding my baby at the end. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. I'll think about that. And then I didn't right away. And when I was younger and the kids were younger. I wanted to kind of protect their energy a bit too. But I did eventually write a book, and it did form the basis of how I want to share like mindfulness and breathing techniques with other people to show them like what's possible.
Mm. I get that, and it's I'm not a I can't say exactly understand because it men doesn't give birth. But the man's got an important role by being there anyway and helping
Of
spiritually
course.
by even just standing there or just holding you around. And yes, he may crush his hand. I know that from what I've seen on TV. He crushes his hand. It's like, but at the same time, it's working together as a team no matter what.
100%. 100%. 100%. I've gotten flack for that before for not giving my hubby more stage because I went through it, so it's all about me. No, no, he really did the strong masculine thing. He held the space, kept the space safe, and stayed very physically present. In my case, I wasn't crushing anybody's hand. I just wanted presence and like a very, 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 very light touch. And he knew because if he did any kind of more pressure than that, I'd like rip his head off. So yeah, he did a wonderful job of we call it holding space. Just again, being really present and making sure that I'm not like disturbed, right?
So you
Yeah,
basically, the way I would word it, it's like a protector of that inner circle.
100%. And men are beautiful, female term. Men are wired for this. Men are
Yeah.
wired for this, especially watching over their women. And if their women are in distress, stress, or what they need, um, yeah, it was really powerful to watch. And even when they're afraid, it's really incredible the protective emanations that can come forward,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mm. And I like that because that does show real empowerment.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
now going into the future, because obviously we can talk about that forever, and I know you're passionate about it, but going, and I applaud that, but going into the future, talk about how the future is for you, how you see things going? Do you see things progressing forward in the way beliefs are, in the way you work in as a person?
Definitely. I'm in a big transition right now. Um, really switching a lot of my all of my time and energy, like professionally, to full-time wellness work. Um, so way less like corporate, analyst writing to um really diving into, like, I really enjoy t teaching people mindfulness techniques and mindfulness coaching, and helping people connect to just the higher version of themselves. And what I find I'm enjoying and specializing right now too is just kind of like bringing people out of anxiety, stress, burnout, like
Mm.
quickly. So I perfected the te techniques over the years, over time, and so now my future is really about sharing, just sharing, giving, showing the way. I really want to spread the secrets of self-healing, particularly accessing your intuition, using your breath, using mindfulness, like as widely as possible. Like I really feel that this should be taught, shared, circulated. Like, you know, why isn't this happening like at preschool already? Or maybe it is,
And that's the
so
thing
that,
that and that's the thing I think should happen. Schools, not just America,
yeah,
but
yeah,
worldwide, should
yeah,
incorporate a sort of wellness
yeah,
into
yeah.
your.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, even not just meditation, like why don't we go into a bit of the mystical? So one thing that I do is called chakra scans. So we quite literally look at the energy centers, like the crown, the third eye, the throat, the heart, and downwards. And we use this process to, like, it's like a holographic, quite literally look at hologram of energy to get more information and more clarity on where we're getting stuck and where we're
Mm,
getting tripped up. And that's another thing, like, I'm passionate about. It lets you look at your blind spots. And I feel like we all need that, even me, because even if you're really self-aware and you're, I don't know, like going to therapy and you're talking about your issues and you're looking at your childhood and da 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 da, I feel like we all still have areas that we're not quite, maybe not seeing, or not ready, or not really ready to
yeah,
see, but yet we get in these patterns. Like I still have patterns, relationship patterns, where it's like over and over and over. Why am I still in this same thing? So I like helping people just kind of like, oh, I didn't see that, and I can give that information in a different kind of way.
yeah, and I like that. So people will be wanting to get in contact. That is the ultimate question I always will hear is like, how can I get contact with Sarah?
Oh,
But so how can I get in contact with you?
well, we'll definitely include the info beneath the podcast, right? But
Yes.
it's Cera Gagnon, so it's Cera like Triceratops, CERALGAGNON on Instagram and Facebook. That's probably the fastest. Or I'll
Okay.
put I'll put my work email beneath as well. I'll
Okay.
send it to you. Yeah.
Okay. But one last ultimate question.
Yeah.
And the ultimate question, you spoke about your journey, how it began, where it was in the middle, where it's going to the future.
hmm
Now, the ultimate question is, helping people move forward, what would you say to them?
Honestly, I would show you. Spend some time, even a few moments every day, quite literally breathing into this space.
And for
The
people who's just listening, it's the middle of your chest.
physical dead center of your chest. Find your still point, find that beautiful radiating pink light, take a few breaths, put a hand there, listen, listen. And if it just starts to make you feel like that teeny bit emotional, you've nailed it, you know? And the more emotional you feel, the more it's needed, right? So
I agree.
even if it's three breaths, that's your starting point. All of us, for me, on the hour, on the half hour, over and over, and on a rough day, shit, maybe it's every 15 minutes. But go there, literally go into your heart and just start to it's not even decoding, David, just start to acknowledge
Yeah.
what is being held in there. Just start to acknowledge, and that will snowball the healing process. So, listeners, I want you to hear that one thing more than anything.
I thank you for sharing your journey today, so it's been very enlightening in that you covered everything in the space that we've got, and I know it will help future generations who are watching or listening to be successful, to carry on in their journey, to be blessed in their journey, and I hope they take your words and take them well.
Thank you, David.
And now,
Thank you.
a message from
Much love.
Ammie. Ammie, it's over to you.
Hello, I am Ammie Harrison. I'm the author of the book Feline Warrior Part 1 and Part 2, a fictional story that is written in a poetic format that is based on real-life events that could happen to anyone and intended only for relatable purposes. This story claws into Catgirl's past abuse. Catgirl is human and part feline, but truly a warrior who can handle anything because she is strong and fierce. She has been taken advantage of for far too long. Join her on her journey as she reaches freedom. Here are some poems from Feline Warrior. Tears flow. I no longer know what to do. I am no longer who I once was, and it is because I made a choice to use my voice, and that is okay, because what I had to say was true, unlike me and you. Now I see. I am free. I am me. I am Catgirl. Ultimately, be you. Always stay true. Do what you want to do, because every day is made new. If you want to read more, visit the link in the description. Meow at you later. The Journey Podcast explores stories of personal growth, challenges, and life-changing moments. Each episode dives into unique experiences, offering insights and inspiration for listeners navigating their own paths. I believe everyone has a story worth sharing. If you'd like to share your journey with David and others, email your story to wisewords1983@reborn.com, and it may be featured in a future episode.